Timothy, Timothy, Blanke, Blanke.
And Mr. Blanke, what do you do for a living?
I'm a detective for the Dane County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been in that role?
I've been a detective since 2014.
And how long have you been in law enforcement?
Since 2004.
Were you asked to assist in the missing persons investigation into Bart and Krista Haldersons that turned into a homicide investigation at some point?
Yes.
If you had to summarize generally what your role has been in this investigation, what has it been?
I've had various aspects of the investigation, including assisting with digital forensics acquisitions, interviewing witnesses, and helping compile information.
I think the jury just heard from a young woman by the name of Kat. Were you involved in her interviews somewhat?
Yes.
Okay. You were one of the detectives who conducted them?
Yes.
At all times, was Kat cooperative with you?
Yes.
Okay. I'm showing you what's been marked in this case is exhibit number 120. Just briefly, what is that?
That is my curriculum vitae.
In your role as a detective with the Dane County Sheriff's Department, are you frequently called upon to conduct investigations into electronics and computer technology and things of that sort?
Yes.
And what type of training do you have in that area?
I'm certified in multiple disciplines in digital forensic tools, including the Celebrate UFED for PC software, Celebrate Physical Analyzer, and Burla for digital forensics of automobiles.
We may hear from you multiple times during this trial, but it's the first time I think the word Cellbrite has been mentioned. What is Cellbrite?
Cellbrite is a company that provides a number of software solutions to law enforcement, the defense industry, the government intelligence agencies, as well as the private sector for acquiring and analyzing digital data.
And for a large part, does Dane County Sheriff's Department as well as other police agencies employ some of Cellbrite's services?
Yes.
And specifically, one of their services involving the downloads of phones, email accounts, things of that sort?
Yes.
Just give us a basic overview. If I gave you my phone and I gave you my password, what would Cellbrite do to it?
The Cellbrite UFED for PC program would be used to acquire data from the phone. It essentially makes a copy of the phone in a forensically sound manner to prevent any alteration of the data.
Okay. If a layperson were to use the phrase, the police downloaded my phone or they mirrored my phone, is what they're referring to as a Cellbrite download?
Yes.
Okay. I just picked up a random exhibit. It doesn't really matter. It's exhibit 540. What does that appear to be?
That appears to be a text conversation obtained from a Cellbrite.
Okay. Does Cellbrite have different ways you can view the messages or view the communications within the software?
Yes.
One of those ways is this very pleasant way to see it, correct?
Yes.
And what's this referred to in your industry?
Conversation view.
And what's the other way?
There's a timeline option. There's a few others.
Sure. So if I display 540, which is already in evidence, messages that we've already looked at, this is the conversation view that's the product of Cellbrite from the raw data it downloads from phones.
Yes.
Okay. Can Cellbrite be utilized in other aspects, or is it just phones?
No, it can be utilized for a number of options.
What other types of services, communication methods, things of that sort can Cellbrite be used for?
Cellbrite can be used for acquiring data from thumb drives, other electronic storage methods. We can actually obtain data from drones. We can also use it to analyze data provided to us by a number of internet service providers such as Google, Facebook, Apple.
In the course of this case, were you asked to do just that in a variety of different fashions for different devices and services using Cellbrite software?
Yes.
Okay. Have you found that software to be a good tool and an accurate tool to download the contents of either those providers, email accounts, or Google or phones? Have you found it to be accurate and a solid tool for law enforcement to use?
Yes.
And do you have any problems with it yourself?
No.
You say you had numerous involvements in this case, different things. At some point, were you asked to meet with the defendant's brother, a young man by the name of Mitchell Halderson, regarding a DNA sample?
Yes.
Okay. And did you obtain a DNA sample from him?
Yes, I did.
In a homicide investigation, are DNA samples taken from a variety of people?
Yes.
For what purposes?
It can be for a number of purposes. It can be to identify a suspect, but it can also be to eliminate someone from involvement in a crime. It can also be used to identify other people's involvement in other aspects of the crime.
Sure. And did you talk to Mitchell about getting a DNA sample?
Yes.
And did he provide one to you?
Yes, he did.
I'll show you it's been marked in this case as exhibit number 361. What does that appear to be?
That would be the buccal swabs that I took from Mitchell Halderson.
Okay. Because of the cadence and where you're testifying in this case, it's probably the first time anyone's heard the phrase buccal swab. What is a buccal swab?
That's a swab taken from the mouth of a suspect, of a person we're obtaining it from.
And you took it yourself?
Yes, I did.
How do you take a buccal swab from someone?
Now, the first step is to place a mask over my own mouth to prevent any of my own DNA from contaminating the sample, and also to wear latex gloves, which are provided in that kit. We then have the person we're obtaining the sample from take a drink of water and swish it around in their mouth to remove any residual DNA that might be in their mouth from another person. Then 2 swabs are taken for approximately 30 seconds each on each side of the inside of the person's cheeks, using a cotton swab attached to a wooden stick, essentially a long Q-tip.
Okay. After you take a buccal swab from a suspect, and we can use Mitchell Halderson as the example, what do you do with it at that point?
I retain custody and control of it. I then allow it to dry for a minimum of 24 hours before packaging it.
And is it sealed at that point?
Yes.
And where are those generally kept?
In the Dane County Sheriff's Office evidence room.
And are those frequently transported to a certain location for testing at some point?
Yes.
And what's that location?
The Wisconsin State Crime Lab.
Anything about Mitchell Halderson's buccal swab or DNA sample different than the normal process for you?
Not at all.
Okay. If I haven't already done so, I'll move 361 into evidence, and we'll just leave that there for now.
Any objection?
No objection.
It's received.
In one of you mentioned that you interviewed Kat, and one of those interviews, did you become aware that this was a screenshot, exhibit 532, that she had taken of a location of Chandler Halderson?
Yes.
And did she provide this to you?
I believe so, yes.
At some point, were you and other sheriff's deputies, just using the streets on here, able to match that up to a real location in the real world? Were you able to figure out where this was?
Yes.
And where was it?
It's in the town of Roxbury, just across the Wisconsin River from the Sauk City, Prairie to Sac area.
Okay. Have you been out to that property?
No, I haven't.
Okay. And you're aware that sheriff's deputies later searched that property?
Yes.
And I'm going to show what's been marked briefly as 55. It's been received into evidence. Does that appear to be the area that was screenshotted by Kat and provided to you during that interview?
I don't recognize that area. I haven't seen it myself.
Sure. I'll give you 1 second here. Just to match it up, if you look at 532, this was the screenshot she provided to you. Mm-hmm. And is there a little island in the middle of the river right there?
Yes.
All right. And it's a rural area with a town across the way?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions for now.
Cross-examination at this time.
No, thank you.
May this witness be excused but not released.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Detective.